Welcome everyone, this is a very special episode of Fractured Compass. Today we have a very special guest, Rick West. Man, this is a long time coming.
It is. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you so much for coming. It's our honor. I'm so sorry Mike couldn't be here. He did have to work today. So
he messed up. He missed out.
He missed out. That's okay. That's okay.
He missed out.
I was texting him earlier. I'm like, I'm really nervous. I'm gonna throw up. He's like, no, you're fine.
We'll do it for season screamings.
We will. There's a ton of things coming, man.
I know. Of things. There's stuff coming, and we're working on stuff, and
it's not.
See if we can say stuff one more time, and it'll be fantastic. I was an English major, I promise.
But let's start I want to start at the beginning because this is the first time that we've interviewed you.
This is the first there's a lot of ground to cover.
And I wanted to ask before we got deep into the haunt community, both of us, we were simply just fans. Yeah. Right?
That's how it starts, right?
So when was the first time that you started to fall in love with Halloween?
Wow. We're talking single digits. So I grew up in Southern California. And just my grandfather, I grew up in Rialto, and we went out trick-or-treating, as you do on Halloween, and strangely enough, in the 70s, we did go trick-or-treating, and there's a movie about that. Anyway, I was the kid that was always like beeline to the one house that had the lights turned off. Right, like everybody's lights on, everybody's out on the stoop, playing their 70s music, handing out, candy, and I'm looking for that one house on the block that has like the scratchy record playing and like the one like red light bulb screwed in all scary right? That was my jam. And we're talking, I probably started trick-or-treating when I was 5, 6, and so as long as I can remember, that has been my thing, and never was afraid. Never was afraid. So growing up, always looking for the spooky house on the street. Then, I don't even know at like what point I found out that there were like haunted houses to go to. It must have been very young also. And of course, grew up with Disneyland and loved Haunted Mansion. And like I said, eventually somewhere along the line there was a haunted house in there somewhere. So I was kind of like knew the whole Halloween thing. And then from Redlands, I moved to live with my mom in Irvine. And this was to be in the early 80s. And I do remember the first time I got really pissed off is that about a haunted house situation is that there was like the community put on this, it was called the Heritage House of Horrors. And my mom took me, I begged her to take me, and so we went to this, but they had a sign up that said, basically like the adult version of this starts at 9 p.m. And I was like, full stop, what does that mean? And the guy was like, well, it's just more scary and more bloody, and there's like more, and I was like, we have to do this one. We have to do, and my mom wouldn't do it. She would not bring me back. And I was like, that was the first time I got really bent about not being able to do a haunt that I wanted to do. And then from there, very like in the early 80s, I had a youth group at Irvine Presbyterian Church, and they took us to this thing called Not Scary Farm.
What year? Okay, so
it was probably 81, 82-ish.
Okay, so like maybe 5 years after.
Yeah, brand new. And so we signed the things and got into the church van and made the long trek from Irvine to Buena Park. And I remember we parked in what I know now would be the Hurlbut lot, and it was on La Palma. And I remember getting out of the van and seeing fog pouring over the fence onto La Palma. That was my first memory of Scary Farm. And the rest of the night is a blur because of a million years after that being so filled with haunt memories. But I remember that it was just like finding Nirvana. It was like, not only is it Halloween every night here, not only are there haunted houses, this thing is like crawling with monsters and fog and scary music. And oh my God, it was like the best thing ever. And so that began my love affair with Not Scary Farm, which then led to everything else down the line.
Dude, you said that fog coming over the fences gave me chills.
That would have been probably from
so
they had that's when they had Gasoline Alley, and they had really long haunt walkthroughs there. It was like Revenge of the Dead, Industrial Evil, really old school. haunt mazes there, and that had to be coming from that.
Yeah.
And so, but that was my first haunt memory.
So then, let's move forward.
Yeah.
TPA.
Oh, that thing.
That little thing that you did, you know.
So, okay, in a nutshell, we're going to do 24 years in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So, basically, in the late 80s, I became a cast member at Disneyland.
Okay.
And
what did you do?
I worked Pirates and Mansion. And worked Country Bear Jamboree.
Wow.
And canoes. When they decided that they hated me, they put me on canoes. Not a canoe guy.
Did you get those buff arms?
Can't you tell?
Yeah.
I don't have the six pack.
Yeah.
I got the entire keg. So, but you know, I was a cast member there, and this is all, you know, pre-internet, which is like really hard for anybody, even me, to like wrap my head around, right?
Facts.
And so there was a newsletter at the time that a friend of mine did. It was like, you know, a fan newsletter, and he said, "Hey, you're a cast member. Why don't you write about being a cast member?" I was like, I will write about being a cast member. Mm-hmm. So I did this thing, and people loved the way that I wrote, and they loved it. And, you know, it just kind of evolved where I then went on from Disneyland to the Walt Disney Studios, and then from there just out into the world. But somewhere in there, I decided, well, I want to do my own publication. But there's so much out there. Like, I'm in love with Las Vegas, and I'm in love with roller coasters, and I love zoos, and I want to write about all this stuff, not just Disneyland. There's so much more out there. And that was before I even like knew that there was, you just call it the industry. I mean, it was just like, I know that I like that and that and that, so I want the buffet. I don't just want one dish, right? And so literally one night I rode by myself over and over again on the People Mover at Disneyland, and right above the Subs Lagoon came up with Theme Park Adventure, TPA, and that was it. And started planning it for a few months. The first, and this is before I like published it, but the first press media invite that I got was for the open. This is gonna date me. You ready for the liver spots to explode? The first press event I ever went to was the opening of Mystery Lodge at Knott's Berry Farm. And then from there, the bigger ones came. I was at the opening of Jurassic Park at Universal Studios. That was the first red carpet event that I did. And then it just, the hits kept coming. And that started in September of 1994 and continued for 24 years. I did TPA. And so we were the first fan publication to be recognized by Disneyland as legit media. That was a huge deal. And then I was invited then to the 3-day opening of Indiana Jones. And at the same time, though, I was really kind of planting the seeds of what TPA would become, much bigger than just this fanzine publication about theme parks. It kind of became, over the years, kind of like a hub of what that at that point was like the beginning of the haunt community here in Southern California. And it was just because of my own love of all things Halloween and haunted attractions that since I was the guy, I got to devote whatever I wanted to in TPA. And at that point, it was like a monthly newsletter, and it called it the Break Zone. And I had various friends help me with it and that type of thing. But it was my vision, and you know, I filled up the pages with what I wanted to fill it up with, and a lot of that turned out to be Halloween stuff. And for all intents and purposes, it was like the first publication that really ever covered like home haunters. Like, home haunters were like, what do you mean you want to do a story on me? This is like, what? Yeah. Because there was no haunt list. There was no vlogging. There was not this community that we know now that you're part of, right? So I had to explain, and then it spilled over into the parks. And I remember sitting in the conference room at Knott's with their marketing department, and I said, would you guys be opposed to me doing like picture updates on the building of mazes at Knott's? And everybody was like staring at me like, what is wrong with you? Like that is the weird. It was like I was speaking Greek. Nobody had ever like, and the question was like, well, who would be interested in seeing that kind of thing, right?
And nowadays.
And now you can't imagine not covering build right?
Yeah.
So that was a brand new thing, and TPA really kind of forged that trail. And they said, sure, and so I did it, and it became a thing. And then at some point, video came into it. It's all kind of a blur because we're talking a lot of years here and a lot of stuff happening. But, then it came to the point of like, well, I said, can I shoot video in the mazes? And they were like, sure. So, there I am with my big ass cameras and all this stuff, recording these mazes, and just kind of started shooting flow-through videos. And then I realized very quickly that it was problematic because it was... Now I say that, later years I'd say, look, the deal is we go through with an escort. It's a choreographed event that the park's involved in, security knows about it. It's a big effort. Mm-hmm. And it's so we get the shots we need, and it's so we don't ruin anybody else's experience. That's the polished version of it.
Right.
But it's a trial and error thing where at first I was trying to shoot and it was like, Jesus, all these people are running around me, and it's a cluster. It sucks. It's not any video I would want to watch. And so very quickly it did become a very heavily choreographed, this is what we're going to do, this is the route we're going to go, these are the mazes. And it became a thing where I was taken with escorts, and the mazes were called ahead. I had meetings before each filming with the captains.
Oh yeah.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And it turned out to really be beneficial because that in a lot of ways put TPA like on a larger map, especially with things like YouTube. When YouTube came about, what do you mean it hasn't been here since the beginning? But yes, there was a time pre-YouTube, and we would have to put like 5-minute huge files up on like a server for people to download. I didn't even have entire maze flow-throughs. They were just like giant MPEGs of just a few minutes at a time, 300 megs or whatever it was, I don't know. And so it became this thing that was actually so tedious that TPA was the only media outlet that was allowed to do this.
I want to say a special thank you because the first time we kind of started working together was when I started doing the maze documentaries. Mm-hmm. And thanks to you, without TPA, I would have never had half the footage that I have. So like it's awesome, and it's something that we can all look back to whenever like I get, like it's November, it's December, and you're sad, and you're just kind of like holidays.
Yeah.
Turn on those maze walkthroughs and just fall asleep to screams. I know that's really weird for some people to hear, but like
not anybody watching this.
No, I know, but for some people, like you fall asleep to screams. I'm like, yeah, I had music to my ears. Especially.
Yeah, well, it's great that you say that, and I know when you reached out to me and said, hey, these videos are really great. Can would you mind if we? I didn't hesitate in saying yes because, strangely enough, like when I created TPA. Again, it's so hard for people that are like in the YouTube community and the social media stuff. There was no spotlight back then. It wasn't like, I'm going to be Mr. TPA and have all your free booze and food. It wasn't that. Mm-hmm. There wasn't that. It was just I wanted to create something, and it goes back to the one word, documentation.
And that's what I wanted to do when I made these documentaries is tell the stories behind these mazes and like the little intricate details and the things that the creators brought in and the things that the actors brought in. And it got so big very quickly that everything actually had to be passed through Ken Parks and everything like that, just to make sure like, hey guys, we're not here to tell any secrets, we're just here to tell people stories. And about something that's great and something that's been going on for so long. So I might hit you up again because I think I want to do 2 more mazes.
Great, keep going.
Yeah, we did the 3, we stopped, and then I was like, okay, let's go back into maybe doing 2 or 3 more a season afterwards. But that's awesome, man.
Well, keep doing what jazzes me, and like kind of like it was a fragmented thought, but what jazzes me is that this little thing that I started way back when in 1994 with the purpose of documenting for fans generations later, for it to now come to fruition that people like yourself are saying, hey, wow, can we use this? That's amazing because that's 2 decades worth of work that have paid off now, where it's like, yes, this is the archive for haunt fans and Halloween to go back and look at all these years. And so, God, for me, that's like a personal, that's a really it's a high for me, because it's like, I knew it would pay off. I knew that down the line someone was going to give a shit about this stuff, like I do. And so, no, I love that, and I thank you for asking. Also, thank you.
Oh, of course.
Like this, YouTube's kind of like the Wild West. It's like I'll be watching people's videos, and suddenly I'm like, God, that looks so familiar. Wait, I shot that shit. Wait a minute, but they clipped out the TPA, you know, and I'm like, hey. So I learned very quickly, you know, that's my stuff. So you did everything right. You reached out. You were fantastic, and of course, I mean, that is why it's there. Like, so. Oh, it just like proud papa moment when I can say all of these years of documenting was for a reason. And the reason now is this next generation of fans coming up who I think are far more passionate than any of us ever were, because you have this base, you have this springboard. And God, I think it's so exciting to see where it's all going, you know?
Yeah, thank you. So let's get down to the main event of what's going on. Midsummer Scream was happening, got canceled. We moved it over to July 9th. Still some issues, so we pushed it over. So then we're like, okay, let's do Season Screamings in December, and then wham, left field. Awaken the Spirits.
For you and me both.
Okay.
So, this is where you fasten your safety belt, because this is the wildest ride in the wilderness. So what happened was, you know, the world stops and everybody's a zombie for a year and a half, and but not the fun kind. And so we just kind of shifted gears, and it was like, okay, well, we're going to return to Pasadena, and we're going to do Season Screamings.
Yeah.
Season Screamings is going to be great, and it's going to be so much fun. But it's fun size. Like, it's fun size because literally the footprint and the capacity constrictions of Pasadena, it's a smaller venue than Long Beach.
Oh, yeah. So
literally everything that we're going to do at Season Screamings can fit into our Hall of Shadows in Long Beach. There's a size comparison for you. So that said, it's, I told you, but it's going to be great.
That's okay.
And
it's okay.
so we will,
anything.
yeah, of course. At this point, anything, turn out the light. That's good.
Yeah.
But no, so Season Screamings will be great. And, you know, I immediately, we got to work because we said, well, it's going to be part of the Midsummer ongoing annual product, right? The idea is to be able to have mini events or whatever that are branded as, as Midsummer events. And so Season Screamings has been that. For the past, well, when I say last 2 years or whatever, we're not counting the whole COVID thing. So the last 2 Halloween seasons that existed were summertime or whatever, Christmas. We had, it's the C word, we had Season Screamings, but it was done at Sweet Hollywood. And that was at the Hollywood and Highland complex at the giant Willy Wonka type store there, right? And it was very easy for Midsummer to do. David Markland would just gather up some vendors. We would put them where we could fit them in the candy store, and then they had an overflow room. We put vendors in there as well, and done. That was it. Well, not related to COVID, Sweet, their contract ended. Their lease ended at Hollywood. And so the writing was on the wall that we had to grow this thing and really kind of take it to the next level. Plus, a lot of freaking people showed up last time, and it was really crowded, and it was like, we've outgrown this venue. So we, the discussion was already there. Like, what are we going to do? And like, we were kind of thinking, well, maybe we should have it here. Maybe we have it here, whatever. Then COVID did happen. And during COVID, we did a lot of talking and said, coming out of this thing, we really should take this opportunity now to really, really grow Season Screamings. And David said, yeah, we're going to do this. And then, of course, Gary and Claire, they said, let's go for it. And so we came up with the name, and then, well, what are we going to have? Well, it's not a Midsummer event, but if it's a Midsummer event, should have haunters involved, should have a hall. So at that point, we were like, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to have a hall, and we're going to turn the lights off, and we're going to have haunts, and we're going to call it the Hall of Yuletide Spirits. Okay? And that's because anything that we do going forward where it's going to be a permanent piece of our arsenal, I feel very strongly it needs to have haunter representation. So anything that we do like that down the line, the intention is to have a hall of whatever it is.
Right.
With the mothership always being the Hall of Shadows at Midsummer Scream. So that's it. It's in motion. We've got a whole bunch of fantastic haunters that are already planning, building, their Christmassy, scary stuff for Season Screamings. We've got over 200 vendors that are going to be part of that. It's going to be a really, really great time. And that's kind of where our entire focus shifted. I mean, that was it, right? That's the hill we're marching towards, right? Unbeknownst to me, Gary Baker, who is our executive producer, is nonstop needling David. We have to do something. We have to do something. Things are starting to open up. We have to do something for the community. And finally, I wake up one morning, I get this text from David. It says, we're looking at this date in Pasadena. It's like 2 months away. What do you think?
Let's go.
And I'm like, I'm just like, let me pee first. Hang on a second. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, oh, okay. And so, of course, I get on the phone with David. Not when I'm peeing, but I get on the phone with David. And I say to him, dude, can we do this? I mean, first and foremost, obviously, yes, we're there for the community, and we're fans, and we're part of the community. We're also a business now, and it's a serious business. Mm-hmm. And the question is always, well, can you do this? And more importantly than like the financial stuff, you don't want to grow a brand that is as positive and successful as Midsummer Scream and then make a misstep and just crash and burn it, right?
Right.
And so I said to him, can we do this? And he's like, yeah, man, I'm looking at it, and kind of talked to Pasadena real quick about it, and they're super, and it was just like, well, yeah, yes, let's do it. I said the only caveat this time around is we can't ask haunters 2 months out to build haunts and all that. They don't have time. The haunters, like Cal Haunts, who does our entryways and all that, and right. Cal Haunts will be doing the entryway for Yuletide Spirits. They start in like February with all their build stuff, A lot of people that don't do their own haunt stuff, they don't realize this stuff just like takes a long time to get ready.
Yeah. And
so another thing that we found also with home haunters, I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but the 1-2 punch of COVID is now home haunters are like, yes, we get Halloween back this year, we're going to start building right now, and then they go to Home Depot and all the building materials is like 600% more than it was. And suddenly now the younger home haunters are telling me, I don't think I can do anything this year. And so it's like the 1-2 punch, and I said to the team, I said, we can't ask these guys to do something for a hall. We can't have a hall of, and also because Awaken the Spirits, it's not part of our planned rollout of shows. It's a one-off. It better be a one. Knock on wood. It better be a one-off, right? So it's taking the place, time and space-wise, kind of a Midsummer Scream this year.
Right.
It's not Midsummer Scream. You gotta remind yourself, it's not Midsummer Scream. Midsummer Scream Presents, because it got put in the laundry and it shrunk. So, but it's going to be great. It's going to look like, feel like, smell like, and most importantly, the community is going to be there, and you guys are all actually the heartbeat of Midsummer Scream. So it's a one-off. So we're not too like, oh my God, we can't have a. We're going to have some really great activations. Mm-hmm. We're really cool things there for you to do. Tons of vendors. We are going to have a main stage that seats about 1,300 people, which is pretty sizable. I mean, the one in Long Beach that everybody loves seats about 2,000 people. So it's not that much different than Long Beach. And Gary Baker and his team are going to go to town and make a beautiful stage for everybody again. And we're going to have really great presentations. We've announced, that we have Six Flags Magic Mountain is going to be joining us 13th Floor is going to be with us. They're going to be with us on Saturday, the 14th.
And are they doing? They're doing a full presentation.
Yeah, they're going to talk about Haunted Hayride, and then they're going to have John Braver is going to be there. John Braver. No. This guy. Okay, so I did a live stream with this guy. We did. I'm gloating. I'm gloating for years. I told John Braver that Delusion was a haunted. It was a haunted attraction, and he's been adamant for like a decade. I don't do it. It's not a haunt. It's not a haunt. Now he's part of 13th Floor, which is like the empire of haunts. So Braver is now bringing Haunted Delusion. It's a haunt, Braver. He's bringing that back this year, and Delusion's going to be great with Reapers and more. So Braver's going to be on stage to talk all about that, also take questions, and that's going to be fantastic. Like I said, Fright Fest is going to be there. Our friends from Winchester Mystery House, they're coming down to do presentation. And hot off the presses, on Saturday the 14th, Halloween Horror Nights will be there.
No shit.
Just dropped the dookie. So Halloween Horror Nights is going to be there, and they are going to make a presentation on the 14th on our main stage.
All right.
And so yeah, we're really excited to announce that Universal has joined us at Awaken the Spirits, and we really look forward to having them. And it's just going to be an entire weekend of so much fun. It's going to be great.
Yo, did you guys just hear the tickets sell out? I think I heard it.
So yeah, there's lots of logistics in putting these things together, and you tell these theme park companies, like, we're not going to have Midsummer this year. They're like, oh, okay. Well, guess what? They all go to their drawing boards and they start like their own rollouts and their own plans. And so then to come back and say, well, but we are having this. Can you come reel it back in? There's a lot of logistics and a lot of moving pieces for that.
Yeah.
Luckily, Universal has been very excited from the beginning, and they've kind of been like, yeah, we got to figure this out. We're going to see what we can do. Mm-hmm. So Universal and Halloween Horror Nights, they are going to have a very large presence this year at Awaken the Spirits.
Nice.
And we're very, very happy about that. So we have Awaken the Spirits coming up on the 14th and 15th. We've got Season Screaming. This one's easy. Season Screamings, it's the weekend before Christmas. That's all you got to remember. Forget the dates. It's the weekend before Christmas. And then, of course, Midsummer Scream, the mothership comes back to Long Beach Long Beach? But Long Beach next summer, and it's going to be, finally, the 5th anniversary that everybody has been waiting for.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, before we end this video, I've got 5 lightning round questions.
Wow! I'm going to drink water here, so I'm ready for this.
That's right. I wrote them down, so I'm going to forget them. They're really hard.
Are they really hard?
They're the worst.
Holy shit. Okay.
You got 5
No
seconds.
pressure, Rick.
5 seconds.
All right.
Number
5
1.
seconds.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Right.
See, you're doing fine.
Yeah.
See? But really Dr. Pepper. Anyway.
Facts.
There we go.
Favorite holiday that's not Halloween?
Christmas.
Christmas? Favorite maze of all time?
I'm going to say the original Trick or Treat. It was, and this is where we got, hang on. The original, for years and years and years, was the original Dominion of the Dead. Because that kind of took mazes at Scary Farm to a whole nother level. And, but the first year, seeing the vintage Trick or Treat, and it was just like, God damn it, this is so good. I fell in love with the original Trick or Treat. So there you go.
Yeah.
Trick or Treat's awesome.
First Halloween event ever.
Like a theme park one, or?
Could have been like a park carnival.
So, of mine that I went,
Or anything, yeah. As a kid, as a whatever.
God, you know what? I'm going to have to say just like a nondescript, like March of Dimes haunted house in the inland, probably San Bernardino somewhere.
Cool.
Like there weren't things back then, right? There just really weren't things. And so, but I do remember dragging my grandfather all over the Inland Empire, taking me to every shitty little haunted house that like we could find in the newspaper. So it had to be some March of Dimes haunted house in San Bernardino. But here's a cool tie-in to, this is going to take a while. So Garner Holt, who's a longtime friend of mine, if you're theme park fans, you know that Garner, they fabricate and build animatronic figures like for the Cars ride and Little Mermaid and all this stuff. Well, Garner Holt, as a kid, started off building haunted houses. And his very first haunt that he did when he was a teenager was in this black trailer that was plopped down in the middle of, I think it's called the Carousel Mall now in San Bernardino. Back then it was the Central City Mall. Well, guess what? That was actually, we're going to back that last one up. So that actually was the first haunted attraction, haunted house that I went to. And I was talking about it, like, I don't know, I wrote about it on TPA years later, talking about my very first Halloween memories. I get this email from this guy named Garner Holt saying, dude, that was my maze when I was a teenager. And that's how Garner and I became friends. It wasn't because I work in the industry and he, or whatever. It was because I wrote about my early memory and he was like, wait a minute, that was my haunted house. And that's how we connected. So there you go. Garner Holt's haunted house in the Central City Mall, circa way too long ago in San Bernardino. God, I'm old. But yes, there's the answer. And that is a boom answer right there.
Nice.
Rick and Garner going way back like that.
The Carousel.
And last
Yeah.
but not least,
home.
best hotel in Vegas.
Wow, that's so freaking hard. So right now, I mean, right now we are in love with Suncoast, which is in Summerlin, and that's because in about a year and a half, Nova and I are planning on moving to Summerlin in Las Vegas. And so we've been staying there, so you wake up, you open the windows, and you're looking out at future home. We've been staying downtown a lot. My grandparents, my grandmother, she was born on Oahu. And so anybody that's familiar with downtown Vegas knows that the Cal is all about the Islanders, right? And so there are many times that we go to the Cal and I'm like the only white guy walking around the Cal because it's all the Hawaiians and folks from Japan and China. It's all the Asian Pacific. So we stayed there. We stayed at the Cal for a long time. Before that, I had a really long love affair with Luxor on the Strip, because as part of the TPA story, I watched Luxor being built and I became fast friends with the people that were in charge of the attractions there. And TPA was always doing stories on Luxor and its attractions when it had attractions. In fact, one of the very first things that we covered as TPA, we were invited to the 1-year anniversary party for Luxor. And so that was in '94, and because it opened in October of '93. And so we were there for the first anniversary. So Luxor, then downtown locale because of my grandparents and their spirits hang heavy there still. And now we really like Suncoast in Summerlin because that has meaning as future home for us. So there you go.
I miss him.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Subscribe if you haven't. Give this video a like, and always be ready because you never know your compass will take you. Thanks, man.
Absolutely.